No, that's the camera's talking. Hold on.
Hello, hello.
Hello. You're good, Tiffany. That was a good catch.
Hello. Hello, are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yes, now we are.
Okay. Having a connection issue. Sorry. All right, just seeing if we have critical mass here to get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started and call this meeting to order. I think we have enough people to get going. And one little administrative thing is I'm at a conference and doing this from my car. I'm not driving and conducting a meeting. I'm just in the car. But if I have issues again with Wi-Fi, I'm going to end up just turning off my camera. But hopefully that won't be an issue. And so we can jump right in. Is there any comments or questions related to the information on the items? Hearing none, I had none. We'll go ahead and jump into abstracts. The first one is 3.1, the Priority School District Consolidated Grant. Ms. Bonanno?
So, hi, Mr. Wilcox. I'll be presenting for Ms. Bonanno today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is, again, a part of our consolidated alliance grant, and the amount of $4.4 million. Again, this particular grant helps us to fund our Elm City Montessori programs. It allows for us to really to pay for our dropout prevention specialists, pay for contracts for our a portion of our alternative K-5 school, our Gateway to College high school program, and then also our daycare program for our high school parents.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this? Hearing none, I had none either, so we'll jump into 3.2, Priority School District Grant. Ms. Red-Hannons?
I can do that one too.
Thank you.
Yep, that pretty much is the contract. That's a summer portion of our same grant. Really just allows for us to put some of our priorities together as it relates to planning and programming for the summer. Again, focus on those areas similar to what we do during the school year with the academic focus, supporting that work in the summer.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this? I had none. We'll jump into a big one. 3.3, which is Federal Magnet Assistance Grant, year 1 of 5.
Yep. So again, this is exciting news. I know that it's been all over. This is year 1 of a bigger $15 million grant that we got to support Betsy Ross, Hill Central, and Metro. Again, the whole portion of the grant, the whole notion of the grant is really to build out our college and career opportunities at those schools to continue and explore opportunities amongst our university partners and also providing work-related experiences for our students. I'm sorry, I see Dr. Negron.
Yeah, Dr. Negron.
Just wanted to correct, not Hill Central.
Not Hill Central. Oh, Hill Regional Career. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to correct Hill Regional Career. Sorry about that, Dr. Negron. Hill Regional Career. Sorry about that. Although that would be nice. We start early. But Hill Regional Career. Thank you for that.
Thank
I
you.
didn't even know I said that.
Any comments or questions related to this? I had none other than this is a good news one. I mean, these all are. Any abstract bringing funds into a district that severely needs it, but this has done some other interesting project work related to this. So, hearing nothing else on this, we'll jump into 3.4, which is the Alliance District Grant.
Yep. So this is the Bigger Alliance grant, again, that supports the area of the talent, academic, culture and climate, and operations. This is, again, just so that you notice that on the board doc, it says 24 million, but it really is 26,463,427. Just so that you have a correction and it matches.
Right. So
Okay.
note that correction. And this
Yep.
is also a very well needed one. Much
Yep,
needed.
and the good news is it is a $4 million increase from the previous school year. I will tell you though, however, similar to last year, we do have raises that usually absorb a lot of the increase. However, it does give us that increase, and it doesn't further add to any of the expenditure for a teacher. So I just wanted to note that as well.
All right, thank you for that. And are there any comments or questions related to this? So, no, even though it gets eaten up, it's eaten up for good reason, for
Yep, it does.
raises and cost of living increases, etc. So, very, very well needed. And as much as I complain about the state of Connecticut's funding for education, this is amazing and wonderful. So, all right, thank you. Hearing no other questions or comments on this, we'll go on to 3.5, which is Title III English Language Acquisition Grant. Dr. Robles?
Yes, this is actually one of the two grants that we have. This is actually the federal funding grant that is granted by the Connecticut State Department of Education to serve all our multilingual learners, not only students that are part of the bilingual program, but also students that are part of the mainstream programs, supporting them with supplemental resources, supplies regarding to core programming. So that's the Title III, and this is this grant is specifically to support students to for English language acquisition that include ESL programs and programs at the high school level as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments or questions for this? I had none either, so let's jump into the next 3.6, the other bilingual grant.
So the bilingual grant is also funded by the State Department of Education. It's actually an entitlement grant that allow us to support and enhance bilingual one-way and dual language program. This grant is specifically to support multilingual learners, not only acquiring English as a second language, but also supporting them using native language instruction. So this grant help us providing, enhancing our core curriculum with supplemental materials for Spanish-speaking students and students in our bilingual program.
Wonderful. Are there comments or questions on this one? I had none either. So thank you for that. And next we'll move into a memorandum of understanding. And I will apologize that I did not talk to you ahead of time, Dr. Yarborough, but I need to, I think, recuse myself on this because it includes one of the parties to this memorandum is United Way of Greater New Haven, and my lovely spouse works for them on a different project, but I should recuse. So,
yes.
Thank you.
So, thank you. I would like for us to talk about Memorandum of Understanding 4.1, an agreement with Clifford Beers and NHPS, Ms. Joseph Lumpkin.
Yes, and my colleague Christian Tabatis is joining me on extending this. We are really excited about this memorandum of understanding because it promotes one of our fundamental components of our strategic operating plan, which is to strengthen our relationships with our community partners, and particularly in the areas of wraparound services as well as within after school. This memorandum is a continuation from last year where we won a grant of substantial figures that allows us to provide services in a highly needed community, Fairhaven, in support of two of our highly needed schools, Fame as well as Fairhaven School. It opens up our schools to support students and families in the larger community rather than oftentimes limitations that we have in our schools that services oftentimes just the students of those schools. So we're going to be able to expand on services from healthcare and additional community-based services, as mentioned, from organizations such as the United Way and several other community partners bringing their expertise to support our families and students. Again, this is a federal grant. We love when we win these nationally based applications that are oftentimes competitive around the country. And here we are in Little New Haven, winning a substantial number of funds to support our schools and families. Christian has been appointed by the superintendent as the official liaison in support of this work. And I'm going to bring him in now just in case I missed out on any critical parts.
Nope, you hit every single point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay. I want to say thank you for bringing the MOU forward and continuing to form strong partnerships for our schools. So I appreciate the work and also all that was written in the MOU. Right now, I want to move that we recommend to the board for approval MOU 4.1, in agreement with Clifford Beers for NHPS, our participation in a full service community school grant.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, I'll take a vote. President Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
I am recused.
I am yes. So that will move forward. Recommendation for approval to the full board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll jump into 5.1, which is a Head Start budget revision. Ms. Derwin.
Good evening. This is a request for board approval for a budget revision to the Head Start Basic Grant to add a line item for transportation in the amount of $372,200 for transportation to and from the Dr. Mayo School for the Head Start students, and a reduction in the same amount of salaries and fringes. So this does not result in any change in the grant amount. Board approval is required because this exceeds $250,000 by Head Start standards. So it has to have board signature as well as policy council signature.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, the Policy Council is the Head Start mandated parents group that also has some oversight of Head Start business in part of our contract with Head Start. Okay, comments or questions related to this? I had none either, so let's jump into the one purchase order under the state contract with CNC janitorial supplies. Mr. Aline?
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Request for purchase order for CNC janitorial supplies to provide cleaning supplies from October 1st, 2024 to June 30th. This is just another bridge PO as we're waiting for the purchasing department and the city of New Haven to complete their contract on the new supply service that will be coming out of the RFP that went out. So this should carry us over for the next couple of weeks, and we're trying to plan probably till the end of the month, or the first week of November, when this contract should be in place. Amount of $62,465.25 coming out of the operating budget. This will not increase our cost for the year. This will actually be subtracted from the contract line once the contract is executed. Any of your questions?
All right, thank you. Comments or questions related to this? Dr. Yarbrough. You're muted.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aline. One, thank you for kind of putting this forward, even though we're waiting for a contract to come in, versus us being behind or saying we're trying to pay for something that's already been purchased. Question for the future contract, about how much is that, or has it been in the past?
I'll have to come back to you. I'll have to look it up. I don't want to hold up the process here, but if you'd like me to come back to you in a couple of minutes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, if you just want to jump in between items when you have that information, that'd be great.
Yes, sir. I'll have a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing nothing else on this. Oh, I guess my one question is, do you have a sense of the backlog of when these are going to get moved through, or
I believe we're looking at the end of October, possibly first week of November is the last update I received.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, seeing nothing else on this, we'll jump into agreements. 7.1 is with Boundless Literacy. And this is listed as Ms. Danley.
Ms. Danley isn't here tonight, but I will take this one.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is an agreement with Boundless Literacy to provide part-time tutoring to students in grades 2 and above at Brennan Rogers. We had a Boundless tutor there last year. Students made great gains, and Brennan Rogers School is hoping to continue with a half-time tutor from October 29th until the end of the school year.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions on this? I had none either. We'll jump into, thank you. We'll jump into 7.2, which is an agreement with Teach for America. Who's presenting?
That's me.
Okay.
That's me. Yep. So this is an agreement with Teach for America to provide the high dosage tutoring program at Windsor Grant School. The notion would be that we would have the tutors to push in during the intervention blocks to support our instruction at Windsor Grant School.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions on this? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, just a request for the data for how the group has performed in the past to be provided. I think it's the data is available upon request, so
okay,
but not needed to hold up me supporting this moving forward.
Sure, no problem.
Yes, if we could have that data by Thursday afternoon, that would give us time before meeting posting, just in case there was an issue or further questions. Would that be sufficient, Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I had none on that. Hearing nothing else, we'll jump into 7.3, an agreement with Arts in Connecticut Corps. Ms. Joseph Lumpkin or Mr. Tabaris?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Wilcox. So Arts in Connecticut is returning back to Barack Obama to support their after-school program. They will be serving a total of 60 students per week for 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And they're going to be providing an array of enrichment activities ranging from arts and crafts to karate and to cultural dance and skills. So last year was a good success. They had a great turnout, and the building leader over there requested that they return. So we're looking forward to continuing their programming and establishing that partnership this year again.
Sounds good. Thank you. Comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you. Just for, I guess, conversation for another time, but on page 16, there's the end of year report for Arts and CT for 2023. And I just couldn't make sense of the student participation and attendance data. And yeah, so I wanted to know if one of you can take a look at it and let me know how you read it. And specifically, I'm trying to find the page now, but specifically, it was about the number of participants. There's a smaller number in terms of who's been served, but then there's a much larger number that's written there. And I don't know if it's um, just counting people multiple times for how many people have come through each session or what it represents. Um, but we don't have to
Yes.
talk about it
Okay,
now, but I just couldn't read it here.
for sure. Thank you, Dr.
Thank,
Yarbo.
thank you.
Okay, is that, we would like a response, similar time frame by Thursday? Is that the,
Yes,
like
please.
so an email response by Thursday afternoon would be great. Thank you.
And Mr. Lean has a hand raised.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's coming back with that information that we had, so I just wanted to finish up with this item and I'll jump to him.
Yes.
So seeing nothing else on this, Mr. Aline?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Dr. Yarbo, to answer your question, the budget line for supplies, cleaning supplies is $506,000. It's a flat budget line, so it's the same budget it was last year.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, and for that particular partial funding of that, that'll come out of that number of whatever it would have been. It would be discounted, so it's not going to increase the number. It's going to be below that. So it's
That's
going to
correct.
be dragged. Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you for quick pulling that up. We'll jump to 7.4, an agreement with ACES for Aspire program. Ms. Jackson.
Yep, that's me. This is for our contract for Area Cooperative Educational Services to run our middle school alternative program. Essentially, and just so that you know, one of the things that we have been doing with this particular vendor, they have over the last couple of years within our alternative programming, they have served as a alternative to expulsion for some of our middle school students as well. So in addition to students that have had complex needs, they also have also filled that need for us as well.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions on this? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, Ms. Jackson, is ACES the main vendor in this region or area for us? Are there others who submitted quotes?
So there are other folks, but just know that this program was a program that we actually created in partnership with ACES a few years ago. So it's our program that we built from the ground up with them some years ago because it was such a need. So this is
Thank
a
you.
unique partnership with New Haven Public Schools and ACES.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Move on to 7.5, an agreement with Yale Child Study Center. Ms. Jackson?
Yep, that is our contract for us working directly with the Yale Child Yale Child Study Center, really focused on working on our meetings that we have within the schools, really looking at our SPMT, our SSST meetings, really looking at those structures that really talk about students and really oversight of the governance within our school building. So they've been a long-standing partner with us and really working through and making sure that we're refining our practices.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. 7.6 is agreement with Boys and Girls Club of Greater New Haven. Mr. Tabaris or Ms. Joseph Lumpkin?
Yes, another continuing partnership with the Boys and Girls Club has been established to support Salentino's after school program. They were looking to service their students, 40 total students, during after school hours, Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day, to just continue with their academic supports and enrichment programs for K-8 students at Salentino.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions on this? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you for attaching the data, evaluation data. Are there other vendors who applied?
For the RFQ process or to just participate at Salentano?
The RFQ process, who submitted quotes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many?
Uh, Off the top of my head, for the school year RFQ is about 40 participants, 40 organizations that submitted RFQs.
Okay. And um, this one was selected because of our past participation with them and them doing a good job, or?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you know if any new agencies were a part of who gave quotes, or mostly existing or returning
It was a
participants?
good it was a good mixture of them. I can provide a list of the organizations and the description of services of the organizations that did participate in the RFQ process for your reference.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And just as a reminder on this, we have for the last 2 years in our first January meeting, get an overview of the process. And that also includes a slide deck that also has some information on how the process works and number of participants and things like that. So it's dated information at the moment, but we'll also hear a full overview of that process in the first January meeting in 2025. So, all right, hearing nothing else on that, we'll jump into 7.7 in agreement with Eli Whitney Museum.
Okay, Eli Whitney is continuing their after-school program efforts as well over at Barnard and Hill Central. They are currently two 21st century sites that are funded through the cohort 18 and cohort 19 21st century grants that we currently have. And the sites and the building leaders have identified some of the partners that they wanted to work with, Eli Whitney being one of them, to provide hands-on STEM enrichment activities for their students. So they will be both established at Hill Central 1 to 2 times a week to provide their students programming.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this? I had none. We'll jump to 7.8 in agreement with Ed Advance. Ms.
Thank you very much. We are excited to continue our partnership with Ed Advance and funded through our state funding for chronic absence to address attendance through the Learner Engagement and Attendance Program, LEAP for the acronym for Learner Engagement and Attendance. Last year, Ed Advance provided professional development to us aimed at shifting mindsets around attendance, moving away from traditional models, punitive models, and working to embrace more equity, culturally responsive, all hands on deck. Those trainings involved professional development to school leaders as well as folks participating on our district-wide attendance teams. And while not included in this package, and we can certainly make available to you, we feel that we've made great progress as a result of the work that they have done. Notably, many of our participants on the district-wide attendance team, our elementary schools led the way in attendance decreases, even compared to outperforming other Alliance districts in Connecticut. Well documented in our EdSite data as the citation for that work. So we believe that a continuation of this work, more focused, now being led by our path to excellence, now being etched into district-wide attendance teams as well as school-based attendance teams protocol, that the work with Ed Advance this year will continue to strengthen our attendance.
Great, thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this? I had none either. Thank you for that. We'll jump 7.9. In agreement with the Library Corporation. Ms. Rogers?
She's here. I think she just might be muted.
Yeah, it looks like you're muted.
Hi, it took me a minute to figure out how to unmute. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Kim Rogers, the lead librarian for the district. This is the Library Corporation is our online public access catalog. It is used to manage all of the assets in the libraries within our school buildings. So this means checking in and checking out books that students are borrowing. It also is where we would do all the cataloging, all the inventory, all the collection curation, and to be able to make selections on what to purchase and what to leave, etc. This is year 4 of a 4-year contract. We moved to the Library Corporation just at COVID, just after COVID, when we were looking to have better access for students to have books via e-books and e-platforms. And so it is critical to use this platform to do all library work. This platform has always been paid by ESSER funds. It was originally a contract with Follow Destiny, and it was a shared contract between the library department and the IT department, but we were unable to secure any of the IT support in this, so I've moved money in my budget away from books for the students to pay for the OPAC system so we can manage the books for the students. Any questions?
Thank you. Comments or questions? Well, it's unfortunate we had to move funds away from the books, but hopefully district will be more secure in funding as we move forward with the state biennial budget being negotiated or fought over this winter and spring. And it's just one of the examples of the costs that come in all of this. So thank you. And seeing nothing else on this, go to 7.10, which is an agreement with All Our Children Academy. Ms. Diaz-Valencia. She's on. So I don't know if she's on or she's having technical difficulties. This appears to be a
I'm checking on her right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think the rest of the action items are under her name, but they're also pretty straightforward.
She could be having technical difficulty because it's going straight to voicemail, and it's unlike her to go straight to voicemail.
Well, for this one, it looks like this is an award with All Our Children Academy for the 10 full day school readiness spaces. These are actually decided on by the New Haven's is it School Readiness or Early Childhood Council. So we're a pass-through for this funding. So I had no questions on this. Does anybody else have questions on this item? Okay, I do not. And now we also have several amendments, which is increasing funding for, so this is 8.1 through 8.6. So 6 amendments to the agreements, adding funds due to revised budget from the State Office of Early Childhood for more of these programs. And these, we are passed through for these funds. So these are small tweaks to their funding formula, I guess, that has increased these by a few $1,000s. Ms. Hannans?
Good evening. It looks like these amendments are to add in the COLA funds, which are separate funds coming from the the state of Connecticut as well, Office of Early Childhood.
Yeah. And so
So
each
the
of these,
first agreements were just school readiness, and now these are increasing by the amounts by the COLA.
yeah. So I had no questions on these. Are there comments or questions on these? Okay.
Okay.
These are always pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
All right. So I think that's the end of the action items. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. And that is, I move that we send to the board with a recommendation to approve these remaining 5 abstracts, the 1 Head Start budget revision, the 1 purchase order, the 10 agreements, and the 6 amendments.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
President Rivera?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, so that motion passes. We will move into our reports, updates, discussion items, the first of which is the monthly financial report. So Ms. Hannons, please share your screen as needed. Bring in anybody else you need to, please.
Okay. Dr. Ready? Oh, okay. Okay, so the report before you tonight, good evening again, everyone. The report before you tonight basically is just a standard financial report showing the expenditures to date for the first quarter of this fiscal year, and keeping with our mission and our core values, and of providing timely and transparent financial reports. So the reports itself are 2. We have our monthly report for the general funds, and then we also have the financial report for the special funds. And as I stated in the statement itself, the report just represents a snapshot in time. It does not include any projections or any budget amendments, because we're still putting stuff on the system, and any adjustments that occurred after the reporting period of September 30th. So if any grants came in after September 30th, or anything came in for the general fund budget after September 30th, that is not reflected in this report. That would be reflected in our next monthly financial report. So with that said, our total expenditures through September 30th are 36.8 million, with the general fund being 21.1 million, or 10% of the adopted budget. And our special fund expenditures incurred are through 9/30 are 15.7, or 36.18% of the current budget. That number looks high, but it's not, because that's based on the amount of funds that have come in to date. Okay, and first will be our financial report. Here we just show you, as always, how to read the columns in the financial reports. I won't spend a lot of time on that. And here is the general fund monthly report. And you could see our adjusted budget is 208. To date, we've spent 21, or either 10% of that budget. And our monthly encumbrances, to date, we've encumbered 63.2 for that budget. And here is just a breakdown of where the expenditures are showing to date. And we could just keep rolling. Keep going. And then keep going. Okay, so our financial report for September 30th, 2004, for special funds, excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied. But our budget right now that we have in-house with carryover and everything is 43.4. We've spent to date actuals 15.7. And again, that number is high, but keep in mind that there were some grants that we had to have fully encumbered by the September 30th deadline date, and that were the ARP ESSER grants and a few other grants that cross fiscal years. So we have encumbered $22 million. And so far we have available 5.6. So that's how we come up with the 36.8%. The 43 is not where we are right now. I mean, where we are in September, but that number you'll see every month will start going higher. Okay, and this page here is always the same format where we tell you, explain each column so it makes it easier to read. And then here's a summary of our grants revenue. And as you can see, in 23-24, we were at over 1,044,000. And now we had carryover in that grant period of 21.5. Now, again, remember that carryover follows the city fiscal year. So while some of our grants don't end until September, we have to shut down grants on June 30th so that we can keep in with our financial reports in the city's fiscal year, and then we roll over. So where some folks may be saying, well, why carryover? But it's carryover because the federal fiscal year always starts October 1st, and our fiscal year starts July 1 to June 30th. So that's why you see the overlap. So when received in 24-25, we tried to put what we know we had received letters for and we had firm numbers for. So right now we were at 22.4. We had pending approvals, which we looked into and knew they were on their way, but we just haven't gotten them yet. So that was at 45. And Paul, if you can go back that one slide. Okay, so you can see the available funds for fiscal year 24-25 are going to be around 89.8, which is a stark difference from what we previously had in 23-24. So that's why you see the changes. And as you can see, all of the ESSERs were in red. And there were a few other grants that were just one time and have expired, so you won't see those anymore. A grant like Impact Day we're no longer eligible for because we don't have any students living on federal property that qualifies for the percentage. So that's something that's gone. So this is just a snapshot in time again to show you where we're trending right now. Okay, now we can do the slide. And this is just another presentation to show you, looking at it in a different way, where our numbers are. And as you can see, it's in full-time salaries and part-time, and then the other largest expense is let's say, it says transportation and field trips, but I don't think that's the right. So it's the part-time. But this just gives you a visual of how the funds are being spent, allocated across the board as a whole picture. And then my last slide is, are there any questions?
All right, thank you. And are there any questions? And is it next month when you might be able to have projections on the year?
Yes. Yes.
That was my one question.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that update. Hearing nothing else, we will jump into the next item, which is a transportation update. Ms. Coleman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I too am not driving. I am in a car, like Mr. Wilcox. It's the thing for the day to do that. Thank you very much. Linda showed you some figures there that, if you will notice, transportation always seems to be in the red. We're working on that. I would say that thank you, Mr. Carter, for working really hard for some things that we're trying to do. There are no major updates right now as far as we're off to a really good start. We had some parents with some concerns about the length of the New Haven rides. We've been working on that. We've combined some routes, changed them as needed. The company has enough drivers to cover all the routes and any potential absences. We will say, however, we have not found any areas for cost savings. We are still looking at that. We will continue to monitor it, spending our billing and spending quite closely. You had a question on the updates for the state use of bus cards. The high schools have them available. They are using them for student activities that they need after school for various things to get them to jobs, internships, etc. So those are being utilized. The forms that we showed you at the last meeting are being used. Lastly, I know Mr. Wilcox and company, this is one of your big ones that we are working on, and that is possibility of electric buses and how that will work. There are no major updates on that. However, they have up to 6 months after the contract is signed to offer a plan for electrified buses. Clean School Bus Rebate Program has Mr. Carter and I helped sign. They are applying for an EPA Clean School Busing Funding Program. It would be up to $965 million as a possibility. We may qualify for 325,000 of that per bus, up to 50 buses. The deadline for that award is January 9th. So we are waiting for that, but we have signed all the necessary paperwork for that. I think that's it for now, unless you have some questions.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, Ms. Coleman, just thank you for the update. And I was wondering about the electrification and where we were on that. So thank you for including that.
Yes, thank you.
And yes, thank you for the overview. And so I guess the question I have is, since as part of the transportation contract with First Student, that they're going to be producing a report around some of this, and you said it had to be done within 6 months. So would January, do you think, be an appropriate time to have a update on that?
There's a slight caveat to that. The contract technically is not signed yet.
Oh, okay.
It has been approved by the board. It's been approved by the alders. Our attorney is working on that. There's a couple of things that we needed to, we added some language that was not in the RFP. The RFP was a little bit different than what has been going on. So we're waiting just to get that back. But Attorney Alexiadis could have more of an update on that. We're just waiting. I think we're in good shape.
Okay. So it might take a little while. So January might not be the time, but sometime maybe in the spring, it sounds like. Okay.
We're aiming for that, hopefully.
Okay.
Mid-spring.
All right. Maybe if we, Ms. DeMayo, if we could add to our rolling discussion item calendar, just a check-in in February, just to see when to schedule it. So, all right. Thank you very much. Hearing nothing else on this, we'll jump into an update on plans for the facilities management contract. Mr. Carter?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I've looked at the maintenance, the custodial contract. We're gonna put out an RFP for that. We're working on looking at other school districts and how they manage their custodial. Right now, it's part-time, and we're looking at either another part-time contract or bring the contract back in-house. On the maintenance side, I think it will be not to our advantage this year to put out the contract, but to wait another year, because we have so many projects. Thankfully, we have received operating dollars, and now we have additional capital dollars. And there will be a significant changeover cost if we change out the management company while we're trying to start and either finish a lot of these capital projects we just recently received funding for. I'm not opposed to the contract going out, but if we decide to do that and we come in with another company, the cost could be higher, and then we will have to change over the projects, a lot of the projects in midstream, and it may not get done timely. So I still am working through this maintenance contract.
Okay. Are there comments or questions related to this? All right. So, well, thank you for the update. And as you finish your analysis and planning, if I think we will either need to have this back as a discussion item in this committee, or maybe have a memo that explains this, just simply because it was the commitment was to consider having it go out, and so if anything changes, I think we just need to kind of have a finalized answer or recommendation. So
we'll have a memo, and the sooner we lay out the $5.5 million in projects and the length of time, it'll give a better judgment on what to do.
Okay. So I'm thinking, Ms. DeMayo, just in terms for our timeline, if we on our discussion calendar could have this back in, what would be an appropriate time, Mr. Carter, in the 2nd November meeting or the 1st December meeting, or the only December meeting?
I think
you're muted, sir.
The 1st December meeting.
1st December meeting. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Well, hearing nothing else on that item. Let me see what else we have here. Okay, the next item, I put this on just was wondering about the status of snow removal contracts, is because, well, it's pretty rare, especially when I'm sitting out in my car with the windows down on like a 70-degree October day. I do remember Octobers where we've had snow, so I was just wondering an update on the snow removal contracts.
Sure thing, Mr. Wilcox. This is Mr. Lane is going to go ahead and
Thank
give you some updates on that.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem. So for this year, the snow contracts are currently on OpenGov. They're broken up into 5 different contracts to break up the 5 different zones, 8 schools or 8 buildings per zone. The proposals are due in by October 24th. So currently we don't have any bids on it. It is being held to the the availability to just the small business development group. At this time, I know that the board had requested that we look at maybe spreading out our pool of vendor resources for snow removal. But unfortunately, as per, I guess, city charter, the Small Business Development Office had advised us that it has to stay closed to the small business development group, at least until those proposals are received. Once we review them, if we feel we do not have enough contractors or enough qualified contractors, we can then put it out to the open public. But as of right now, we're waiting until October 24th until those proposals are due.
All right. Comments or questions related to this?
Yeah, this is Mike. Are we also looking at a short-term contract just in case?
We're in discussion with Mike Trinick to figure out how to do that. Because we're talking about short-term, how do we guarantee, someone, even if we just got a PO, how do we determine that they're going to be committed to showing up when we call them? And so we're not sure exactly how to do that yet, but Mike Trinick and I are in discussions with purchasing to figure out how we might be able to do that.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, my one question was related to timelines, and then my second, which we've heard about, bit of concern, but it sounds like things are in process, and hopefully these current trends continue in terms of good weather. But a question I had is, last year we had a lot of issues related to the allocation for the snow removal contracts remaining low, while it was known that because of budget reasons and not being able to allocate more funds to this in the budget, but then also being in a situation where we had large change orders later. So I'm just wondering, is the amount associated with these going to be held at that? I'm trying to remember if it was 450,000 or if it was going to be more of a reasonable, based on actual costs for a relatively small snow year being around 600,000.
Mr. Wilcox, I did request an increase in the contract funding or the budget funding for that line. And unfortunately, since it's operating budget, it is a flat budget, right? And so we are still at the $450,000. Also requested to reduce the contracts by 15%. So that's currently where we are at the request of finance.
Okay. Well, when we do these, when these do come through, I'll be requesting a memo and something that says those things, and that we have Mr. Carter or Superintendent Negron that explains this to the public, that this is everybody needs to hope and pray and whatever for no snow, or we are going to be in a situation like we were last year, which was known, which was everything worked out based on the amounts that people bid and received the bids for, and snow was what it was, and we just need to make sure that we have that known ahead of time, trumpeted from the rooftops, just so if we are in a situation where we get any significant amount of snow, people can go, like we promised, here we are. So
Understood. Yes, sir.
But I also understand that there is probably no part of our budget that is sufficiently funded to the needs that the district has. So particularly in maintenance and facilities, because the hope is to put the money in the classrooms with the kids and the teaching and learning. So understanding that. So I'm looking at my agenda and I'm realizing I skipped right over
Mr. Wilcox?
10.4. Yes.
Yes, I have a question about the
Oh,
snow.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So, as it relates to approving bids or selecting a vendor, does this mean that people are underbidding in order to meet our budget threshold?
So Dr. Yarborough, to answer your question, the budget is not published. It's not published at all. You do have some vendors that have been working for us for some time, and so they kind of understand the way that things work. So they kind of understand what our budget is for snow. We have those kind of conversations as we discuss the contracts. So those folks know, but I don't think they're underbidding for that reason. Based on last year, if anything, they're thinking that no matter what, if the snow comes, they have to show up and they're going to get paid regardless, right? So I think that's their position on it. Now, what it does not allow us to do is to increase some of the services or look at expanding, the scope of services, right? So we wanted to take a look at pre-treatment this year as an option, kind of like the city does with using a liquid form. But that will require us to hire a vendor that has that kind of equipment already, right? So that's a much larger vendor. Local vendors, small vendors don't have that type of equipment. And of course, it would increase the costs of services. So unfortunately, we did put in some procedures, some change in procedure as to how we're going to operate. But unfortunately, we weren't able to change anything in terms of a lot of the product that's being used because the contract, the budget for it just doesn't allow for it.
Okay. I don't know if it needs to happen for this particular topic, but my understanding is that there are some additional resources coming from the city to the board. If that's not true, strike that comment. But if that is true, I ask that we look back at some of these areas where we need funding to really reflect what our expenses are and see what we can do. Mr. Wilcox, I agree with you in terms of we need a memo stating that this is our financial position going in, so that later on, if we come with change orders, it's understood where that comes from. As it relates to snow removal, I recognize that's a safety issue for snow and ice. And we may not have much choice in terms of, do we respond and treat an area or do we not?
All right. Thank you. Dr. Negron?
Yes, Dr. Yarborough, I appreciate your question. I wanted to clarify that, for example, the $5.5 million, if approved by the Board of Alders, that would be coming in directly into capital. So these are not dollars that we can tap into to expand, for example, this particular area. And then the other funds that are coming in to support still with the mitigation that we are working through, as you heard our CFO mention, right? There are some items that we had in our mitigation plan. Now that real numbers are coming in, we still have some challenges. You also heard from Ms. Coleman talking, for example, around transportation. So those are still challenges that we have. So yes, would we love to expand the scope of work and do things like the example that Mr. Aline mentioned? That would be great. But then if we did that, I would feel that we would be doing that being fiscally irresponsible because we wouldn't have a source of funding to cover that.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Negron, for walking me through that. And I think we're probably in a tight spot because we're going to have to shovel snow. Just in this particular example, I think other examples, we may have more choice point. I wonder, Mr. Aline, I wonder if for, let's say, the pre-treatment, if the city is already doing it, I don't know how much the cost additional would be to treat the school properties, but I wonder if the city has any interest in that and them covering the costs for it. They may not, but maybe we could ask. I'm not sure.
Mr. Yarborough, that's the exact question that I asked. You know, my theory behind it was you're driving down the street, can you just turn into the parking lot, right? And the answer I got back is that it is extra time. It is a union contract, right, for the people that operate the equipment. And so there may be some reason as to why they can't do it, right? It's additional product that they have to use. There's additional cost to them. I have asked the question. As of right now, I have not gotten back an answer that tells me that they are willing to support that.
Thank you very much.
And I guess just to continue follow up on this, it would probably be good when these snow removal contracts come before us. I can anticipate a question. I guess I can anticipate it because it'll be my question is, if we modeled out, if we assume that we had similar snowfall as last year, what would it cost us under the terms of these new contracts, just so that we would know? So I think that would probably be pretty easy to model out since we have the snow data from the extensive memos that we saw related to this, just to kind of say if the exact same amount of snow happened in the exact same amount of occasions, what would it cost, just so that we can say further that this is, because I think we're going to be in a situation where we know we're not allocating enough. And again, these are not to exceed contracts, so that it is just what we're allocating towards this to set the maximum threshold before we have to come back before us with change orders. But just so we can kind of know that if it's just like last year, then this is what it's going to cost, just so that everybody knows where we are related to that. And then I guess my other question was, is it going to, as these things went out to bid, is it similarly structured in terms of a vendor could bid on one school or all of the schools to go in, and then there's thresholds set as to 0 to 1 inch, and like similar that for this snowfall up to this amount to this amount over this? Is that similar process?
It's a similar process, and we also give an option for them to give us a price for a traditional contract. In other words, we call UCOM one cost for the season. That's an option for them to bid on as well if they want to, just so that we can see what that cost would be. With no guarantee we would accept those terms, but that's one of the categories they can throw in as an extra bid for the contract. And yes, they all can. Each vendor has the opportunity to bid on every single zone, but again, it's 5 zones, eight buildings per zone, and they're separated as separate RPs.
Okay. And then in the previous years, we've had the option, or Local 287 had the option to put in or bid on these as well. Does that continue to exist?
So the 287 does not bid on it. Currently, 287 does not have an MOU that supports snow removal. Last year, we offered it to them if they wanted to volunteer. We had about 5 to 8 volunteers last year. But what that did is we had to spend another $20,000 to put into the snow vehicles, right? Which ended up depleting our vehicle maintenance budget. And then towards the end of the year, we didn't have money to fix our box trucks. And so a decision was made this year to not put money into that space. We do have 2 particular vehicles that we'd like to use, which is the vehicle that holds a salt sander, and another pickup truck that has a plow on the front. And we have 287 crew that are part of the custodial engineer, the 4 custodial engineers that can only assist with that. Instead of pulling building managers out of the building as a snow detail, we probably will not be going forward with that this year just because of the offset of the costs for vehicle service and ended up putting us in a position where we couldn't deliver supplies and things like that on time.
All right. Thank you for the update. Seeing no other questions on this. I see that I skipped over inadvertently item 10.4, which was our regular October report on change orders. Mr. Carter and Mr. Aline.
Mike, are you going to take this one?
No, I can't pull it up on my phone, but I do know we sent it as part of the package. It's can you pull it up?
Yeah, I have it up on the screen here. It's part of the documents that can be pulled up. The change order document or this report was put
Mr.
together.
Aline, can you just give it a second from Dr. White to pull it up?
Sure.
And it is posted in the meeting materials for this meeting.
And Dr. White, if it's easier for me to share my screen, I can do that as well.
So I'll share it now.
Okay.
Can everyone see it?
Yes.
All right. Change order report was put together by our accountants, pulling us some data for over the FY 23-24 year for change orders associated with facilities. The report also contains reports from the past few years from FY 22 to 23, 21 to 22, and 20 to 21. I'm assuming for the point of making a comparison between the years. The information there will show the change orders, change order 1, 2, or 3 if it's applicable. Obviously, it shows here. I'm sorry. You can see here that cleaning supplies last year did have a small change order. Obviously, HVAC had quite some significant ones. There's the snow change orders, and then of course the vehicle repairs, as I mentioned, because we went over on our service to the snow vehicles last year. Out of the capital funds, we have elevators, fire alarms, gym equipment, HVAC again, and theater maintenance. The larger of the group there being for HVAC, of course. There were a total of 2 change orders for Tucker Mechanical in that area. Any questions?
Yeah, any comments or questions? I'm not able to see. I'm not able to see all the participants, so.
I did not have any, and I don't see the other hands raised right now.
All right. So yes, this is the information. I mean, obviously, the change orders. One could go through all the meetings and see them, but every year at this time we have just the overview of the previous fiscal year, so it's all in one place, and people can see now historical trends because I think this is the 3rd or the 4th year we've done this. So the information is available, and if anybody has any comments or questions related to these, please get them to the committee and to Dr. McGraw. But thank you for pulling this information together. So, all right. Seeing nothing else on this. Find my place on the agenda. Okay, so item 10.6, this is just the posting of the which changes periodically as we add or subtract or move things around, but our upcoming discussion calendar, which runs now, I guess we now have probably some January items on that. And we just kind of keep that so people have a sense of where things are going and the types of things that we do talk about. If anybody thinks their son needs to be something on that, please let us know, the committee and Dr. Negron know. And if there is anybody who, I always ask staff to please be aware of this so that you're not surprised, like, oh, I have to give a report. And I did not know. This is your warning, so please be aware of that. But if there is a reason why something needs to be moved, so for instance, if there's like, it'd be better if this report happens after this date because all this new information comes in, well, then obviously it's more time efficient for all of us to wait until the information is available. So please advise us to where things need to move around. So if there's no comments or questions on that, we'll move on. And our final item is an update on the procurement policy. So no, there's been activity on that.
So I'm happy to share where we are. First, I want to thank the internal team that has been meeting, doing a lot of work and being very thoughtful about considering necessary updates to the procurement policy. Specifically, they have been working on incorporating clear language related to educational services, as well as change orders. After that happened, we were able to share our draft, our working draft, to Dr. Tracy, one of the attorneys at Shipman and Goodwin, just so that they can review and give us any legal guidance on our working draft. So right now it has been forwarded to Attorney Alexiades, who's here with us today. He's going to be formatting it and making sure that it gets forwarded to the city so that the purchasing department at the city side can review the recommended changes that the team has put together. We anticipate that the draft would then become available to the entire committee to review so that we can hopefully have a vote on it as early as the next FNO meeting on November 4th. So there's been a lot of work because I believe it's not something that the committee has been rushing. We're really thinking about, what are the things that come our way? How can we make this work a little more efficient? Because again, one of our priorities is operational efficiencies. And we've been very thoughtful, right? Within the scope of what we have to do in accordance to our, right, or board policy, as well as our city policies as well. So Attorney Alexiades, I don't know if you wanted to add anything or if I missed anything.
No, only to say, a couple of things. Okay. So one is that the policy ought to be coordinated and considered in light of state statute, city charter, and charter and ordinance, and reconciled and consistent with city procedures. And so it went, it went to city purchasing department a couple of days ago, late on Thursday. And I have not received any feedback from them yet, but we expect to do that have that forthwith.
And I'll just add, from what I've seen in either meetings I've been in or emails that I've been copied on, there's probably 6 or 7 people on the city side in purchasing, Corporation Counsel's office. 1 or 2 other groups have also been looking at this, so it's a full overview. My understanding is also some folks are itching to have some workshops or training related to this once this is finalized, so that everybody's on the same page once the page is finalized in terms of that these are the rules. And then also finally, I did do as I said, which was specifically requested that while this review is happening, that there people are looking at the change order language to make sure that the change order language, which we've put in there, is sufficient. Does it need to be expanded? Is it correct, etc.? So that is, I mean, we talked about change orders earlier, so it's, that's something we want to make sure is very clear. So I did, after our discussion, after our last meeting, ask that occur. So, yeah, I think things are moving forward. Any other comments or questions on this? All right. I think that's the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Oh.
It's been moved by, I think Dr. Yarborough got it in first. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. It's non-discussable. So we shall vote. Dr. Yarborough.
Yes.
President Rivera.
Yes.
I'm a yes. And so we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Good
Thank you.
night.